Hi, I'm Wyatt.
And I'm Grace.
And you're listening to our dad and your host of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Vodacy Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm super excited today to introduce you guys. We're going to have a great interview with one of our members, Jeff Chisholm, but also one of the leading experts in financing short-term vacation rentals. And so we're going to have a really fun conversation about that with Jeff. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you, ask you a bunch of questions, but Jeff is from Frisco, Texas, right? Northern Texas?
North Texas, yeah, more on the Fort Worth side.
Fort Worth, okay. Yeah. Awesome, man. And you got a little family going there. You got a wife of 25 years and 4 kids. You've been involved in the foster program, so you've got some foster kids. So you got a big family, that calls you family, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And probably one of the best questions I've ever been asked in regards to the foster experience was, why? What did you get out of it? And it just more. We've had kids of all different races and socioeconomic backgrounds and just great experience for our family. But definitely one of the hardest things we've ever done. So I got a bigger family than what is actually under our roof.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. And I know that we were just talking before we hit record that you're setting up now a nonprofit to help some of those young men who have kind of aged out of the foster system to help them transition into everyday life and keep that positive momentum going forward. It sounds really, really exciting and a lot of fun, which is awesome when I hear those stories of people giving back like that.
Well, it is an opportunity that was presented to us and a challenge and definitely a need. And as we talk to more people about it, we never in this realm of, social workers and people that are around these kids, we've never gotten the feedback that it's a bad idea. So it's kind of the opposite, very big need to help those boys that have just aged out of the foster care system.
Awesome. No, I think it's great. And I'm excited to hear how that, how the Launchpad Ranch progresses and gets set up and started and all of the above. So that's fun. And then on the everyday life, how we pay the bills, you're top 1% of the loan originators in the whole US. So, I mean, that's a big deal. That's a rarefied air up there. And especially in today's day and age. And that's really what we'll talk a lot about today. You're with Gateway Mortgage. You can do loans in all 50 states, which is unique to a lot of loan officers that I talk to, and being able to have that ability to do that.
Oh, almost all 50 states.
Oh, almost.
So we have to almost. I won't go into details about California.
Okay.
And if you go if you go to the Vodacy resources where it lists my information, you go to my website, 10percentdown.com. It'll show you a map of all the places, but it's 95% of the U.S.
Nice. And you really, I know you do, these are traditional type financing, regular traditional loans. You guys really focus on kind of second home loans, short-term rental type loans. I know you do a lot of regular residential loans as well, I'm sure, in the mix of all that.
Yeah, we do. So, we do a substantial amount of business, and we're pretty diversified. So about 40% of my business has been first-time home buyers, payment assistance loans, and then, people that are buying $3 million properties. So we're kind of all over the spectrum.
Awesome. Yeah, good. Well, let's dive in. I'm gonna shoot some rapid fire questions. We're kind of getting warmed up with the conversation, but I'm gonna have you just quickly tell me. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. You just tell me your preference on these. So we're gonna go mountains or beach?
Beach.
Had to think a little bit on that one.
I love them both.
I like them both too. Urban or rural?
Rural.
Netflix or nightclub?
Nightclub. I guess Netflix, because I don't know what nightclub is.
A nightclub? Never been to a
nightclub. Yeah, Netflix all day long. Absolutely. Especially at 48 years old.
Yeah, there you go. We're definitely in the Netflix stage for sure on my side of life too. Truck or car?
Truck.
All right. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Protein bar or protein shake?
Protein shake. Don't like the chalky, aftertaste of the bars.
All right. Summer or winter?
Summer for sure.
Steak or chicken?
Gosh, unfortunately, I have to answer chicken because of digestion issues these days. Another,
man,
old age problem.
Showing our age here, Jeff.
It's a sad situation.
Yeah, geez. Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs. Yep.
All right. Hard book or Audible?
Hard book.
Running shoes or high heels? Hopefully not high heels. Running shoes or dress shoes?
No comment. Yeah. Pass.
Gummy bears or chocolate?
That's another digestion issue. Gummy bears.
All right.
I prefer chocolate, but yeah.
Money or free time?
Oh man, I think money buys you free time, so that's a tough one.
So the most important is probably the time, but the money can get you there, right?
That's right. Yep.
Early riser or night owl?
Night owl.
Awesome. Facebook or Twitter or neither?
Twitter. What? Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah. Road trip or air travel?
Road trip.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. What? Tell me a little bit about. Let's dive into you guys and what you guys like to do family wise. What do you guys enjoy doing and in the free time?
So that answer has changed.
Okay.
So before we bought this first property, we had never been lake people. We didn't own a boat.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't own, an off-road machine. And once we bought this property, which is lakefront, we co-own a boat dock with a neighbor. It's got 2 slips. We bought the boat that was in the slip from the seller. So it was a 45 horsepower, like 16-foot bass buggy, and never driven a boat before. So we get on the water, and at first we're like, this is amazing. We're out on the open water, and about the second trip out, I look at my wife and I'm like, this isn't going to cut it. And so we've already upgraded the boat. We've got 150 horsepower, 28-foot Tri-Tune now. This community that we bought in has about 90 miles of roads that were cut that were never paved. So the community, is a solution to how to revitalize the area. They just turned those into off-road opportunities for these side-by-side vehicles. So then we bought a side-by-side, this all happened within about a 3-month period. So what do we do now? We go and we get on the boat. We, ride the side-by-side all day. So yeah, we just had tons of fun. And my younger boys are 11 and 7, so they're just, we're all in heaven. Yeah,
that's fun. And you said it kind of revolves around your short-term rental. What got you guys excited about the short-term rental game?
Well, I guess 5 or 6 years ago, finally got to a place where it was more than just the ends meeting. So we had surplus, and we wanted to be wise with what we were going to do with that money. So I researched investing in the stock market, and I decided I wasn't smart enough, or I wasn't a gambler, and it just felt like gambling to me. And then mutual funds, long-term funds weren't exciting to me. And then I looked, just being in the space of doing mortgages, real estate made sense, and I'd seen a lot of success stories and started exploring long-term rentals and being a landlord, and ran into some roadblocks there. And it just, again, it didn't feel like it was going to be my potential passion. And so we had some experiences in short-term rental homes, and really that was our preferred method of traveling, probably for the past 3 years. And then as my wife and I discussed what retirement looked like, this was an investment vehicle that really made sense, and it just had the fun element to it as well, something that we could do as a family.
Yeah, nice. And that's what it's funny how many people that I talk to that kind of start getting into this game that kind of get introduced to Odyssey and what we do with our stuff is they think about it when they're using these properties, right? They start to become users of the short-term rental properties in the areas that they like to visit, and they think, man, I could do this, right? You hit a great point too, is we evolved past that point of just making ends meet, right? And so once you start to, it's not just month to month stuff, and you're like, okay, now we can do some of these other things. We can take advantage of some of these opportunities. Do we just go buy the toys? Do we just go buy the boats? Do we try to invest in things that as just strict investments? And that's one thing I love about lifestyle assets is they're good, sound investments done correctly, right? And they're not always, you can't just go buy something and throw it up and make money. But for the most part, they can be a really great investment. But they also have that fun element. And, we buy boats and we buy the side-by-sides because of those fun times and those memories that we make. And it's worth it for us for that. And the short-term rentals allow us to continue to do that. So, it's pretty fun. And so you bought your property before you joined Vodacy, right?
I did. Yeah, we closed August of last year.
Okay, nice. And so you found us and just thought, hey, listen, we're in the game. We like the space. What made you kind of get attracted to some of the things that we're doing and really taking it a little bit more serious, maybe as kind of this is the path you're going to use to build that retirement?
Well, and there's a lot of different people doing different things in this space when it comes to coaching and education. And, you've done a great job with your marketing, because the things that I saw with your family going to different places and, experiencing things together, that just aligned with what we were doing, which was, it's about our family first. And then, it's a great model, because then we can also use it to make money. So as I dug into what you were doing and how you were doing things, and we just aligned. And that's been my conversation with a lot of the Vodacy folks that I've connected with, is it's just a great place to be, because you want to be around people that are aligned from a thought standpoint and then a direction standpoint. And I'm a big believer that we can do more together than we can apart. And that's what I found through Vodacy.
100%. And I appreciate you saying that, because I think you're hitting on a key point. None of us want to be on an island by ourselves, especially when we're doing something, fairly serious, right? We're talking about acquiring these assets, and there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to them. When you bought your property and you start to realize, okay, I got to pay attention to marketing. I got to pay attention to delivering this unique experience, all these different things. And then when you can surround yourself, whether it's this or anything else, of like-minded people following the same path, following the same blueprint, just kind of that abundance mindset of sharing, their best practices and wrapping their arms around each other, it makes it a pretty fun journey, right? And so not only do we get to enjoy the process with our family, our direct family and friends, but we can surround ourselves with other people that are doing the same thing. And, that path to success seems to kind of accelerate a little bit when you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, sharing the good and the bad. So,
yeah,
I'd like to see some more of the mistakes that are made shared on the Facebook group, because I'd like to learn from those. I'm a big believer, learn from others, not experience yourself. And
let's not try to be the one sharing it, right?
Yeah, but I can share some things.
Yeah.
I can throw some things out there on maybe helping people avoid some mistakes.
For sure. I think we all can. Anybody that's gone down the road. And that's the value of a group. It's like, okay, we're going to, you share your best practices, but you also share some of the things we wish we would have done different. In fact, while we're talking about that, are there things that are coming to mind, some of the compromises you had to make, or, the mistakes that you made, you wish you would have done differently?
Yeah, and when I wouldn't even call them mistakes. I mean, you probably could have done them a better way. So, you walk through a property and you don't know what you don't know. And if we were to do it over again, there were things that I would know now that I didn't before. So, we walked through the front door of this property, and it's one of those that you can look all the way through to the back of the house, and you just can tell there's something special out there. Yeah. So, you walk out on this deck, and it's trees and it's hills and mountains and lake, and we were a little mesmerized by that, and I think it kind of blinded us to the fact that, hey, there's about $50,000-$60,000 worth of work that's going to have to be dumped into this. And so, it's those things that it did cost us some money, but in the long run, it's going to be worth it. And if you look at it from a perspective of this is eating some of our cash, we shouldn't do this, then you're going to miss out on the cash flow opportunity. So, and that's kind of one of the mindsets that's really helped me to take action. Is the goal isn't the accumulation of cash, it's the accumulation of assets that produce cash flow on a monthly basis. So that makes it a little bit easier to swallow when you're having to spend money, is just understanding that you're investing in this business that you're setting up for the future. Right. So
it's definitely a long game, right? We get to enjoy it in the short term. And a lot of those short-term benefits are the time that we get to spend, that personal use, but these properties don't come out and make you $1 million the first year or two. They take a little bit of time, but then they can really produce after that. But it's setting that up for the long term. To, just like you said, having that money, instead of sitting it in the bank where it's going down in value, you put it in an asset that can now grow, but also spit you off some returns, that cash flow. And that's a great point right now too, because these markets are so hot. They're white hot across the country right now. I mean, houses are going on the market and they're selling in hours many times. You got multiple people that you're bidding against. And so, I mean, that just continues those markets just continue to get more and more competitive, and more demand, it seems, in a lot of these areas. And you have to be able to look at the long game. You have to be able to also understand all those moving parts. Like you mentioned before, you don't know what you don't know sometimes when you get into it. And you have to pretty much understand it when it's that, it's like, okay, if I'm looking at a property, can I pay $100,000 over ask price and make this make sense? Do I know how to find the answer to that question? And then beyond the acquisition, do I know how to stand out in these crowded markets? There's all these different things that we have to be able to put together along the way, and to ultimately turn it into that cash flow producing asset that we're all after.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one thing that I've learned from my business, and, just growing a business and reaching levels of significance, that you've got to be able to pivot. You have to know how to play the game. You have to know that you've got to figure some things out. It's not just always going to fall in your lap and be perfect. We always want things to kind of fit in a box and be in a nice, tidy package. And that's not always the case, but I think the important thing is you take calculated risk. That things are going to be okay, even if they don't start off that way. But and then just figuring out the ways to make the opportunity happen. So it may not be that you're going to be able to jump on Realtor.com and find the house, and then 5 days later be able to make an offer on it. Right. I had a Facebook post the other day about a property that we're under contract for, and that property and the way that we came upon it opened up the door to kind of some strategies to make connections with property managers. So property managers a lot of times are going to find out first that someone's thinking about selling a home. So, if you can get properties off market, gosh, do what you can. Develop a drip campaign with property managers. You got to think like a business owner if you want to scale.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that in the course. I mean, that's probably our number one source of off-market properties, and why we focus on building those relationships in those markets that we're going to be purchasing early on with those property managers, because they absolutely are a source of off-market properties. They hear about the properties they're managing that are going to hit the market before they do. And many times they're motivated to talk or to send them to the people who want, because they want to keep them in their portfolio. So if they've got somebody that's like, hey, we're interested in working with you if you have anything else, and then they show them to us as a new buyer, we buy them, they keep them in their portfolio. It's a win-win all the way around. And so, yeah, there's these short-term pivots, right? The long-term plan doesn't change. The long-term play of adding these assets to our portfolio, getting them producing, establishing them, and ultimately maturing the asset to maximize it to give us that cash flow, that doesn't change. But there's short-term pivots all along the way, whether it's on the acquisition side, whether it's on the management side or the marketing side, that you have to pay attention to. And so those are the things. In fact, so you just mentioned you're on your second property now, right? So you bought your first property back in August, a year ago.
Yes.
August, or okay. Mm-hmm. And you've had that, you've enjoyed that property, you're on your second one, and you've done a few things different, right? You learn along the way, and you're starting to do it a little bit, some of the things a little bit different, which is fun because you start to build that confidence to now. And that's why I tell people, it's like that first one's the hardest. The second one will come, in due time. And then it seems to start to pick up steam and momentum as you kind of want to build that portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't say that I would never buy a property again that hasn't performed as a short-term rental. But the second one has a 10-year history as a short-term rental. And so, what comes with that is many, many advantages with prior bookings and it's become people's annual ritual tradition to come back to that property.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I get the email from the agent on, hey, we'll be writing you a check for $10,000 at closing for the deposits on the current bookings.
Yeah.
And then what we've added up for the current bookings, you've already got another $10,000 that'll be coming. So I'll be pursuing existing short-term rentals to build my portfolio.
Right. Well, you recoup some of that down payment money and some of your cost almost immediately, right? Because there's already that stuff. You don't have that full setup phase, and existing short-term rentals can be a great advantage, and they have pros and they have cons, like everything else, right? What if it's not producing? What if you find one that isn't set up the way that you want it, and you end up having to, and you want to give an uplift to the property, but so there's all those things you have to look at. It doesn't mean just because it's a short-term rental, it's going to be the end all be all. But when you find a producing one that's doing well, and I mean, you can it's like you hit the ground running. You save yourself 6 to 9 months of this setup phase, which is awesome. And you recoup some of your immediate costs right away. So now all of a sudden that third property might be, that much closer to the acquisition because this one's already going so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these two properties are the tale of two different stories. The first one was we've sunk about 80 grand into it. We're still not live yet because now we're waiting for it to be warm enough and dry enough to pour the new driveway that the excavator tore up when they were building the steps down to the lake to this property that, yeah, we were able to do some history on it and could see that it had, I can't remember, I think it's like 85-star reviews, and everything conveyed. That was another big deal. And we did that with the first home, but we ended up replacing 75% of the junk.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's been in this home, the second home that's conveyed, is the same thing that these people that have rented it out and given it 5 stars. So we know that we're not going to have to go in there and upgrade and replace because, I mean, we're just transitioning from their name to our name. So
nice. That's awesome. No, that's fun. And we're excited to see that one come online as well. So your second home might hit the market, or I guess it already is on the market. It's going to hit before the first one.
Yeah. Well, we close at the end of the month on the second one. So it may be right around the same time. So yeah. I'll be looking forward to stuff coming in instead of stuff going out.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of now, that might be a good transition to stuff going out is the loans. That's what I really want to have people hear about. One of the things that I learned when I met you was I've always told people you can go and, because short-term rentals, they're a unique animal, right? They're because of the personal use aspect to them. they qualify for a second home vacation loan, right? Which puts us into some significant advantages from a down payment standpoint and interest rate standpoint, because they're going to be really favorable on both of those fronts for us as a buyer. But I always thought you were limited to one, maybe two if you were lucky, and that's not the case anymore, right?
Yeah, and we have to kind of change our mindset. It's not just wealthy people that can have multiple vacation homes. It's you just have to learn. You have to know the secret.
Yeah.
You look at a lot of things, and people that are successful or healthy, whatever the case may be, they've done well. They've achieved a certain level of success. You just think, well, they just know something that I don't, and sometimes that is the case.
Yeah.
With this, you can even have two second homes within the same area. So let's say someone buys that, and this is a scenario that we had recently. They get into a ski area they like to visit. They decide to buy the condo. Their entry point, from a comfortability standpoint, was the 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo. So they get into it. They've got 2 kids and realize pretty quick, man, this is pretty tight. And then we can't have any family over. So they start looking at other opportunities, and they find, and I like this phrase because people can get it, bigger and better. So it's the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's got a better view, or it's ski in, ski out. Okay. It's something bigger and better. So the rationale that makes sense, the logic is that someone bought in an area, they experienced for a while, which you typically want to be there for at least a year. And then an underwriter, if you were to buy bigger and better and you wanted to buy it as another second home, would say, okay, that makes sense. They got there, they figured out they needed something bigger, it's better. We can do this one as a second home as well. So it would be the same thing, 10% down, interest rates that are going to be equal to a primary residence. And this is all in terms of a conventional loan, so conforming loan limits.
Okay.
And
so can you tell everybody what that means that might not be familiar?
So they set loan limits for what Fannie and Freddie will do, who are the biggest investors in the United States for buying residential mortgages. So they set the limits on maximum loan amount. And so this year for most areas, it's $548,250 for most areas, where you can do the 10% down, the interest rates. Now, there's also a way where you can go up to $748,250. And there may be other options with other lenders, but internally, Gateway as a mortgage bank, we can originate piggyback seconds, so purchase money seconds. So people have probably heard of like 80-10-10s. So 80% on the first mortgage, 10% on the second, 10% down payment. So what this is you're meeting the conforming loan limit, and then we can do up to a $200,000 second, and then you could put 10% down. So there is a way that you could actually you can almost borrow $750,000 and still do that same model, because beyond that, you get into the jumbo space. The majority of what is out there that's available is going to require 20% down.
Yeah.
And they're going to ask for blood samples and hair samples, and jumbo process is a lot more intrusive and harder to achieve just because they're more conservative.
So if it's not jumbo, and that has to do with the loan limit, not the purchase price. Is
Correct.
that correct?
Yeah.
So on a 548 loan limit, if you're going to put 10% down, that's going to get you close to a $600,000 house.
Right.
Yeah. So you can.
And then if we do the second mortgage, we can raise that to. The only difference is going to be, and this is just an example, on the first mortgage, the 548,250, that interest rate, let's say, was 3%. That 200,000, the interest rate is going to be more like 6%.
Okay.
So
but blended, it's probably bringing it, because it's a smaller amount, right? You're probably blended still hitting less than 4 in that scenario, maybe.
Yeah. And then just, be aggressive, knock it out, whatever your model is. You may still cash flow and be happy with that. So it looks different for different people, but it is a a really good opportunity.
So when you say, so if I'm looking and these are conforming loans and I'm in an area that I can purchase, as a second home, and what do the requirements look like? Is it similar to a primary residence? Like, is it just, I mean, what about if you're self-employed, or is there options for things like that? Or are these pretty much full doc W-2 type loans?
Yeah, these are going to be your Fannie Freddie 2-year of self-employment history. Can't use short-term rental income unless you have a 2-year history of it. So yeah, fully qualifying, just like a primary residence.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so talk about the 2-year history. So if I've had a 2-year history on a short-term rental, then they will consider that income that I'm making from that. So that would affect my debt to income, right? Even if it's a break-even property, if I've got it for 2 years and it's not making a ton of money, at least it reduces my debt to income, correct?
Yeah, you potentially, if you qualified and kind of were at the cusp of maxing out your debt to income ratio, you waited 2 years and it offset that liability, then you've made room for another one potentially with that history of that income.
Nice. That's a key factor for a lot of people, because eventually it doesn't really matter how much you make. Eventually, if you're having to qualify for every single loan, you're going to hit a limit where you can't get any more, right? You're going to hit a debt to income limit at some point.
Yeah. And with Fannie and Freddie, you can have up to 10 mortgages in your individual name, but yeah, not everyone has unlimited disposable income to, create those margins that you need. So, yeah.
So go back, let's talk a little bit more about the bigger and better. So that applies to bigger and better in the same area. So if I'm getting bigger and better in the same area, but so what if I buy in one area? Can I qualify for another second home loan in another area that's not bigger and better maybe, but it's a totally separate area?
Yep, absolutely.
So how does that work? That's new to me, and I learned this after meeting you, but I've always been told, no, sorry, you can't do that. You have to only get one second home.
Yeah. So it's, you got the ski place in the ski area, you got the place in the mountains, you got the place at the ocean. They're different areas. You're going to occupy them at different parts of the year, and it's all about occupancy. So yeah, my intention, my plan is, and Fannie says this, about 2 years ago, they knew people were buying these properties and then utilizing them as short-term rentals when they weren't using them. And they did what they consider catching up with the times. So they made it on the up and up, and they put policy around what is a second home. And their policy is very wide open. It just says that you have to occupy it at some point during the year. So it's not a specified amount of days. It's just you have to have control of that property throughout the year. So you can't go into a property management agreement where they say, you have to make this property available for rent for at least, 180 days or, 300 days, whatever the case may be, which I've never talked to anyone that their property management agreement included that. So that's never an issue. But yeah, it's my intention is I'm buy that beach house, and during the summer we're going to go there for 2 weeks, and then I'll rent it out the rest of the time. Then I'll go during ski season and go to my ski resort house. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's exciting. I mean, that's huge. I mean, and the fact that they're saying, okay, we're catching up with the times. We know people do this, and it's not trying to navigate the system or anything else like that. This product really fits well for what we're trying to do. Like, right, I define lifestyle assets as properties that are turnkey, that we don't have to manage. We have a management company. It doesn't mean we turn over control. We still control it, but they manage it, right? Properties are generating enough revenue to pay for themselves. And third, they have a personal use aspect. They're available for us to use, right? And those criteria would fit into that second home product on the loan side, which is huge. And that where you touched on the occupancy, I think that's a critical thing that a lot of people, I hear numbers all the time from people that are saying, oh, my lender said we have to use it, X amount of days a year or X percentage of time. And it's great to get some clarification about that. And especially from the two biggest investors, the Fannie and Freddie, because most things fall under those rules and those guidelines, right?
Yeah, and Fannie is even so short-term rental friendly that they have policy in place where if you've occupied the property, you've owned the property for at least a year, they'll let you hold title in the name of an LLC. So that's how short-term rental friendly they are.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, those are some big differences that we haven't seen in the past. A lot of things that are coming that are available, just showing that how popular this space really is becoming and how much in demand it is. And it's awesome to have these options, because getting in with 10% down, that's a big deal. I mean, and right, you got to fit some parameters and everything else. You don't want people to over leverage properties any more than, but we haven't really seen that since the crash, right? People really aren't over leveraging and biting off more than they can chew, because you have to still fit, check off some criteria boxes with the underwriters and everything else. But this opens up the opportunity, and you hit on it before, where one of my best friends, and he's been on the podcast as well, he's a member of our group, and his name's Dave Savolich, and he was saying, I never thought I could actually own these properties. I don't have, this allows me to get into this space. And exactly how he did it was that second home loan. He did a 10% down, and wants, is building more properties up right now. But I mean, that's a big deal, because it allows kind of the everyday person to be able to get into this space when like you said, you have to be beyond the making ends meet. You have to be beyond the month to month paycheck situation that we all started off in at some point, most of us. But you don't have to be this big,
ultra wealthy.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just for the rich and famous.
Yeah. And so I think the other thing that goes along with that, and you had mentioned, you see a lot of people that talk about having to need 20% down. And the common thing that I've seen is that people in conversation, whether it's on Facebook or with friends or to a financial advisor, and maybe even talk to a lender, they'll talk about how they want to buy an investment property. So they'll look at this as an investment property, which it absolutely is. It's an investment vehicle, but they're using the wrong terminology around the wrong people. So you say investment property, automatically most people that they've had experiences owning long-term rentals will say, well, yeah, you'll need 20% down and your interest rate will be higher. And they're just getting misinformed because they're talking to people that don't have the right information. And that can include loan officers. Yeah. But you just have to be careful when you use that term investment property, especially when you're talking to a loan officer that might not necessarily know the space.
Right. 100%. And because that term means different things to different people, especially in your world, where a loan officer, there is investment properties and there are investment products, right? There's loans for investment properties. And as just a everyday guy that's buying one of these, yeah, this is an investment property to me. And like you said, they might not be as familiar with that. And so some misinformation comes not intentionally from either side, because from the loan officer side, they're like, oh no, investment properties have these criteria and all these things, these boxes have to be checked. And that's a big difference in an investment property in your world, right? When we're talking about that stuff. And so
yeah, absolutely. And through, a couple of conversations that I've had recently, I've literally had to rewire people's brains. Yeah. To think in a different way about these properties. And I love one of my favorite terms for these properties is lifestyle assets. Yeah. Don't call it an investment property. Yeah. Call it a lifestyle asset, vacation home. Yeah. That you're going to make money off of. Don't call it an investment property around the wrong people.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. I'm glad you made that, because some people listening to this we do refer to them as investment properties. I refer to them a lot of times as investment properties. Like, yeah, I've got a portfolio of properties, and if you're talking to the wrong person, that means something different, especially in your side of life, right? And
see, Sean, you need a T-shirt that says # lifestyle asset.
I'm trying to make T-shirts. I've got some. My T-shirts are coming. I'm going to be except for until then, I'm just going to rock your T-shirt. I like this.
Yeah,
the build legacy one. I'm going to make sure we represent the Build Legacy.
Appreciate it.
Awesome, Jeff. Well, listen, we could probably, are there questions that I'm forgetting to ask on this side of life that you wish people would know? Are there things on the loan side? You've got your website, and guys, it's 10% down, and it's spelled out 10% down. You got to go check it out. And you can, you're going to have the opportunity, if you're in this space, to talk to Jeff and his team and see what they can do to help you. But it's got a lot of great information on there. But is there things that I'm not asking or that I'm forgetting that we should be kind of making people aware of right now?
No, you were pretty comprehensive. We got to touch on some of the common barriers that keep people from moving forward, taking action, or even thinking bigger. So, the common conversation or conversation that I have on a pretty regular basis is, once they learn this information and they haven't taken action, now it's okay. We were just thinking about buying one. Yeah. Now that we just need 10% down, we had 20% saved. Hey, let's go buy two. So, we're having these opportunities where we're generating some bigger thought around this idea and this vehicle.
And sometimes that's what we need, right? We need to be able to sometimes just in our heads change this paradigm of what we thought we had to, these barriers that we put on ourselves of, okay, I have to do this, this, and this. And that's what this is really exciting in our space and what we're doing. And I'm sure this is going to be one of our most popular episodes of people, just getting a lot out of it. And just that one little thing, like you said, thinking that you have to have the 20% down, which that's a big difference, 10 to 20, that's double the amount of money you need to get into a space. And when you can, if your market, the prices in your market work to be in the conforming or maybe even a little bit above, and you can take advantage of this program, man, it's huge. I mean, I know for us, and like you said, like Dave, I was just telling you about, he's that same conversation you were just mentioning of saying, man, I thought I had to have so much more, and I can think a little bit bigger and start to build that portfolio out, which is really, really exciting. You don't have to have a portfolio of 100 properties. I always tell people a handful of properties can make a big difference in somebody's life and their financial future down the line. And so that's a big deal. And I always tell people the name of the game is to get that asset starting to mature as soon as possible, right? The best time to buy was yesterday. The next best time is today. Well, one of the barriers to entry is the amount of money we need. And so that 10% down is huge. And so I'm really excited for people to know that that's available for more than just one property. I was, up until 2 months ago, I thought that you could only get one of those properties, maybe two, because that's what I had been told by some of the loan officers I was using.
Yeah. So that's been an exciting opportunity. And, one of the things that I would encourage those that are listening, that if you're kind of deflated and defeated about the markets and just how hot things are, reach out to me, because I've got some strategies to help our clients win in multiple offer situations. And, that when we talk about pivoting in different markets, and you've got to figure out ways to win. I mean, for me, I make a living on closed loans. Yeah. So, I've got to help my clients get into contracts. And so we figured out some ways that we can help our clients be staged for success, but then also stand out in the crowd once that offer is made. So if anybody's in that position, please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to share what we're doing, even if you're not using me for the loan. I like to help people win.
Yeah, that's I love that you brought that up, actually, because that is a big frustration in these markets right now. And guys, I know what some of the things that Jeff is doing to help his clients stand out in these crowded markets when the seller's looking at 10 offers and they're competing, how to stand out with some of the stuff and some of the things that he's able to do and his team. And it really does work. I've seen it work. I've seen exactly what he's doing. We've done it for a long time. Some of the things that he's going to help you with. And so absolutely take advantage of that invitation you just got, because these markets are tough. And when you are in that acquisition phase, if every little thing that you can do to stack the deck in your favor helps, and ultimately to be able to purchase that property. So that's a great invitation for people to take advantage of.
Well, I love my little graphic that I posted on the Facebook page the other day. I never said it was going to be easy, but it'll be good. So some people think that if everything is not falling into place perfectly, then it wasn't meant to be. And that's not always the case.
No.
Some of the best places that you get to come by resistance.
100%.
So yeah, just because you're having to offer over list price, or you're having to fight through multiple offers, doesn't mean that you weren't supposed to do it. You know, if it makes sense and you think your family's going to enjoy it, you should do everything that you can to get there.
Right. I love that. And that's where we'll kind of wrap up on that thought too, because it's such I like, one of my favorite songs is Hard Days with Brantley Gilbert. And it talks about, if you didn't have the hard days, if you didn't have that strength behind, you know, you wouldn't appreciate the good times, and you learn so much. One of the things I heard a story about the biosphere. Remember when they built the biosphere in the desert? I don't know where, and they had the perfect environment for everything growing in there, all the flora in there growing with the soil and the oxygen and everything with the water was purified. They had this perfect environment. Everything grew, and they found that the trees would grow to a certain point and they would fall down, and they couldn't figure it out. Well, what they figured out was there was no wind. And so there was no resistance on these trees. Right. And it was it just goes through. I just relate to that so much. Like, if you don't have the resistance to strengthen you and make you stronger, you know, their roots grew deeper and the bark grew thicker and everything else. If they didn't have that wind, they just tipped over. And so, yeah, the easy path is not always the best path. You know, sometimes when things are hard, you're going to appreciate it more. You're going to learn more from it, and you just got to persevere with it. And it makes it that much better down the line. And so, and that much more worth it down the line. So that's a great thought to end with, for sure. Jeff, anything else that you want to tell people? Guys, we're going to put the 10% down in the show notes. And again, his website is 10percentdown.com. And you can go there, connect with Jeff and his team. And I highly suggest you do so. I think it's an invaluable resource as you start to run down this road. And really, one of the first steps you should be taking before you're starting to really dive into the game, right? To understand really where you're at with the finances. And so,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The last thing that I would say, and it's one of the biggest things that we've taken away from this process and the direction that we've decided to go in investing in short-term rental is, you know, you can be in the stock market, you can have money in long-term funds, your 401k, your kids never see that. They don't get excited about, hey, let me tell you about this mutual fund that we've got money in, but they see that their parents taking action and taking risk and, you know, putting hard work into things, and you know, then ultimately being able to enjoy them, and then also share how you're using these to make money. It's just you're creating that legacy. You're building that legacy of, you want to achieve significant things. You've got to put yourself in a position to take action and take risk, and that's been fun because, you know, I think that our children they're always watching us. They're
100%.
They're a product of their parents a lot of times, and
yeah,
I want that to be a good thing.
Yeah. We want to stack the deck in their favor, right? And teach them some of those things. And so true. I mean, it's just that we're so fortunate to be able to do this and surround ourselves with people that are doing this and making things happen and taking action. And you know, and the number one reason I started it, for anybody who's heard my kind of origin story of why I started this, was my kids. You know, I wanted to be that example of something, though, that was interesting enough that would hold their attention and they could learn from, right? And this is one of those asset classes that is unique in that aspect, and it's just a lot of fun, and you know, there's so many benefits all the way around of it. And so, guys, we sure, Jeff, I mean, just appreciate you being and taking your time and being here and making that invitation for people to reach out to you. Guys, I highly suggest you do it. Whether you're a part of our group or just a listener, take advantage of reaching out to Jeff and his team. They're well equipped to handle all of your questions and really help you stand out in these markets. And take advantage of that 10% down stuff. I mean, it's, I know we're looking into it really heavy right now. We're in that acquisition phase, and you guys, the listeners, we always appreciate you and love you. You guys are the best part of the show and make it so fun that we can come out and have these great conversations and share this our world with all of you. And so we'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, go subscribe, leave us a review, share it with somebody. If you got some stuff out of this, if somebody's looking for that loan, go share that 10% down with them as well. And then we'll plan on chatting with you guys all next week. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website?
Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodyssey.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.